right, welcome back. Welcome back to yet another Earnings Lottos Power Hour Live. Today is Monday, May 4th. May the 4th be with you. I'm your host, Pete. As always, please remember to like the video, like the live, subscribe to the channel. It lets me know that you like this kind of stuff and it, more importantly, works for you. We will get right into the earnings for this afternoon and the ones that report tomorrow morning. We have a lot to look at this week, so I will do my best to get on as early as I can so that we can look through all of them. I think I put together a list of 387 stocks this week, so no pressure, but if you are looking to trade earnings, this would be a great week for you to start. So without further ado, let us get into what we have for this afternoon. This afternoon, we got the, well, let's first look at the top, just because this is a Monday stream. We'll look at the top scores for the whole week. So we have Duolingo, App, Centrus, Akamai, Acme, Axon Enterprise, Powell Industries. So those are your top 6 EL scores for the week, over a share price of $50. If you like playing some of the cheaper ones, sorry, that's over 25. If you like trading some of the cheaper stocks, some of the lower price stocks, here are your top scores for this week that are under a share price of 25. So Atom, Relly, Groupon, Pinterest. Pinterest reports tomorrow morning. Upwork, Kyndryl Holdings. So check back on earningslottos.com. Check back on the site for updated option strangles for all of those on the day in which they report. But the first one for today is the best one for the week, Duolingo. So I think everyone knows what Duolingo does or is. So it's that little translation, well, not really a translation app, but it's a language learning app. I've used it in the past. I don't really like it. It didn't really work for me. But it is what it is. Everyone learns at a different pace and a different style. So current share price for Duolingo, $113 a share, almost $114, giving it a nice maybe $10 to $15 move in either direction. The best EL score that we've seen thus far this quarter, so a 101, you can't get much better than that. The only way you can get much better is if you have 8 quarters out of 8 where it's made a 10% move up or down. That would be MongoDB. That is one of the only stocks that has 8 for 8. Duolingo is 7 for 8 though, so pretty good. Narrative intel for Duolingo is hot. So they are estimating pretty good fundamentals year-over-year growth. So keep that in mind. I know a lot of people have kind of a bear case thesis for Duolingo, but keep in mind that the fundamentals are actually not awful, or at least they're estimated to be not awful this quarter. AI-powered personalization and Duolingo Max are the re-rate catalysts. So it looks like Duolingo has a product called Duolingo Max, which is maybe their AI-powered consumer thing here. AI-powered consumer subscription compounder, Duolingo Max AI adoption, and daily active user growth are the re-rate metrics here. 4 out of 4 quarters, we've gotten a beat fundamentally from Duolingo. And as you can see, typically moves about 8 to 12%. Strangles for Duolingo. Right off the bat, this strangle to me, at least right here in this image, this looks to me a bearish strangle. So the 155 call is getting a lot of attention. Not a lot, but enough so that it pops up on earnings lottos. 155 call is about 40%, like 35% out of the money up, expiring on Friday. Cheap, very cheap contract, so 77 cents. Nice volume over open interest, about like an 8-to-1 ratio there. But I would imagine most of those are sold, right? It's a cheap contract. It's way too far out of the money up. On the downside, we got the 97p getting attention. Lots of volume. This is if you guys watched the streams last week, then you know that the theme for last week and honestly the week before was very high volume, very low open interest. So this 97p is fitting that theme to almost a T here. 4,000 contracts bought and sold today versus just 69 that were on that strike before the day. And that's noteworthy because that means that these are earnings traders. These are people that I don't know if they trade Duolingo or if they just trade earnings, but this 4,080 number, these are all traders that were anticipating Duolingo earnings and they came in today to get that 97p for the best price. So I think Duolingo looks down. I do want to trade this stock, even though the 97p is about 15% out of the money. I might try to pay up for something. I would love to get like 100p. So we'll look at this later, but I do like Duolingo Strangle. I do think you have to strangle it. And I like that 97p. I like the downside. Powell Industries. This is an industrial sector stock. I think they have a lot to do with, so services, custom engineered equipment and systems for electrical energy distribution, control, and monitoring. They are very heavily involved in data center construction. And as such, we will be taking a look at them. So $280 per share here, giving it a nice maybe 28 to almost $30 move in either direction. Really nice EL score. 5 quarters out of the last 8, we've gotten a 10% move from Powell up or down. Estimating pretty decent fundamentals. I wouldn't say it's not too crazy. 6% year-over-year growth estimated. They make custom electrical switchgear and power distribution equipment, direct data center power delivery play here. Custom electrical switchgear, sympathies are Fix, Hub, Power, Quantus, which is PWR. They reported last week, and that stock moved up really nicely. Those all confirm the data center power delivery theme. Small cap enhanced move potential typically moves almost 10%. The strangles for Powell, we have the 350 call popping up. Pretty far out of the money, 25% out of the money up. That seems a little too, I don't know if it's unrealistic or ambitious. But the fact that the contract price was last traded at 660 and there is better volume than open interest, it probably implies that most of the 350 call contracts are bought. Even though 25% out of the money is pretty far up. That being said, all the data center plays have just been absolutely flying the day after earnings. So 25% really isn't that out of the realm of possibilities, and they expire next week, not this week, which is nice. So you have some time. 170p. So I think that 350 calls bought. As much as I don't want to say it because it's 25% out of the money, but they're probably purchased. The 170p, much further out of the money down, so almost 40% out of the money down. 58 cents was the last contract traded there. Not a ton of volume, not really a ton of open interest. The 170, I don't know what these two contracts are. This could be someone just gambling with the rest of their blown out portfolio. But I think the 170s are too ambitious out of the money down. I do like the call side for Powell, but I think I would go closer to the current share price. So I think the 350 call is a little too far out of the money. But that is just me. And I think I don't see anything in Powell right there that I want to jump into. If you are very heavily invested, or not financially invested, but emotionally invested in the data center narrative, then Powell is definitely one that you want to focus on. So if you have Powell and Duolingo, but you trade more data center stuff than you do just regular tech stuff, then probably lean to the data center because that's what you know. Trade what you know. Ichor is our next one. Ichor tech stock here. They design, engineer, and manufacture critical fluid delivery subsystems and components mainly for semiconductor capital equipment. So very important in the semiconductor production process here. Ichor Holdings, $66 a share, giving it maybe a $6 or $7 move up or down. So either 72 or just below 60. Nice EL score and a really nice history of moves reporting over 10%. So 6 quarters out of the last 8, we've made a 10% move up or down. Narrative intel for Ichor is not really great. We're getting the caution signal here. Why this matters. So WFE subsystem binary. KLA core confirmed demand, but UCTT warned about enhanced punishment on modest beats. Revenue nearly flat, limits the upside here. Typically moves almost 10%. So watch for apparently UCTT. UCTT must have been a stock that reported last week and did not do too well. So already getting some kind of like some caution flags there for Ichor. 70 call getting attention. Nice and close to the current share price. Nice priced contract. These are probably bought. 60p. No more than 10% out of the money down. Right at that 10% line. Not a ton of volume, some good open interest. These are a nice contract price tier too, so I would imagine both of these sides are probably bought. To me, it kind of looks like a tug of war with Ichor right now, and based on the fundamental read or the narrative intel, it kind of threw me off of it. So I'll probably fade Ichor. Nothing really popping out to me there right away, but it is a consistent mover. 6 quarters out of the last 8, it's done good moves. Pinterest. Everyone knows Pinterest, kind of like an eBay for hobbyists. Maybe that's a well, no, that's Etsy, but Pinterest. Uh, they have what you have. It's a social media platform. You like pin like different ideas. What like you? There's all the women that I know, all the girls that I know always have like wedding boards on their Pinterest. Like brunch boards and stuff like that. So I don't know what Pinterest does. But look, as you can see, the company has more than 500 million monthly active users, 2/3 of whom are female. So they definitely have a target user base there. $20 a share price for pins, giving it maybe a $2 move up or down. 7, nice EL score, 69, nice. 7 out of the last quarter, we've gotten a 10% move here on Pinterest, so that's really nice. And on a cheaper stock, I like to see that. I like to see a consistent move history of 10%. So that's good to see on Pinterest. Narrative Intel, we got a sleeper re-rate, potential re-rate here, estimating maybe 12% year-over-year fundamental growth. Visual discovery platform, wish I could have said that earlier. That would have made up for my word vomit, but lower funnel shopping intent ads on the monetization engine here. Meta ad revenue confirmation creates direct sympathy. Meta ad revenue confirmation flows to pins, visual commerce, AI targeting re-rate, international ARPU, and lower funnel conversion are the metrics. So we want to hear in the Pinterest earnings, are they reaching to their international user base, and are they getting lower funnel conversion? Strangle for pins popping up. We got the 25 call, lots of volume over open interest. 10,000 contracts bought and sold today versus 788 that were waiting on the chain. Kind of the exact opposite story with the 1750p. So 14% out of the money down, but the volume and open interest are pretty much swapped. There is twice as much open interest. So there's 20,000 contracts on the 1750 on the open interest, 537 volume there. Really hard to see exactly what's going on here. The 25 call, they could be bought and sold. I want to say that it might be a good mix. That's a huge volume number. We might have to look at pins in unusual whales just to find out exactly what's happening there. But pins, there could be something interesting about these. I kind of like the call side because that's a really huge volume number. So I kind of like the call side. I think 25 is a little too far out. But pins we're going to come back to, and Duolingo we're definitely going to come back to. LSCC, so Lattice Semiconductor. This semiconductor stock has been on a tear ever since I've been watching it. I feel like not too long ago it was just below $60 a share. So 125 right now is impressive. Developer of semiconductor technology that it distributes through product solutions licenses. So just your standard typical semiconductor kind of manufacturer here. 125, almost $125 a share. Good EL score, 63. Good history of moves over 10%. So about half the time it makes a 10% move up or down. 4 out of the last 8 quarters. Pretty good, very good narrative intel here for LSCC. So it looks like good fundamentals are expected year over year, about 36% year over year growth. AI server management, FPGA, every AI rack needs Lattice for BMC. Enhanced upside from full AI infrastructure chain confirmation this week. Typically moves almost 10%. All sounds pretty good and bullish to me. 130 call, very close to the money, getting attention. Nice price contract, $9, tells me they're probably bought. 900 volume to about almost 3,000 open interest. So these are probably bought, I would say, 130 call. And then on the downside, 110p, a little bit more than 12% out of the money down. 495 last contract traded there. Volume nowhere near to exceeding open interest. These are probably, both sides are probably bought. That would make sense to me just because LSCC is somewhat of a consistent earnings mover. But both of these contracts are, the contract prices are nice and pricey. They're not cheap. And they're not really that too crazy out of the money. So I think both of these are bought. Looks like a tug of war for Lattice. So I don't think I'm interested in Lattice. Palantir. Everyone knows Palantir. They are watching us right now. Palantir is watching every single YouTube stream I do and keeping a log on me. Current share price, $148 a share. Pretty decent expected move, 8%. Nice EL score. It's over 50, so that's good. Good history of moves over 10% for Palantir. 5 quarters out of the last 8, it is doing a 10% move up or down the day after earnings. Really nice fundamentals expected here for Palantir. Looks like maybe 74% year-over-year growth. Reports this afternoon at 4:05. Yeah, we have a webcast at 5 p.m. Eastern. Okay, that's all great. Yeah, the Iran war is a direct Gotham government revenue tailwind. Palantir is down 30% from the November all-time highs. Institutional accumulation confirmed. Kind of sounds like a dip. Kind of sounds like a dip buy. If I'm an institution and I know it's down 30% from the November all-time highs, kind of sounds like I'm going to buy more. Most important AI enterprise print of the week. This sets the tone for every AI software name through NVIDIA May 20th. U.S. commercial 137% year-over-year in quarter 4 must sustain. Beat and raise is a violent squeeze from put heavy positioning. Typically moves, it says 10 to 15% here. So we are looking for possibly an explosive move from Palantir after the close today. 160 call getting attention, expiring on Friday. Lots of volume, lots of open interest too. Nice price contract, not more than 9% out of the money up. I would say these are probably bought. Then looking at the downside, the 130p coming in at like $1.19 last contract traded. Volume exceeding open interest here too. But I think just the fact that the 130p is more than 10% out of the money down and this contract price is nice and cheap, $1.19, I would probably bet that the 130ps are sold. The 160 calls are probably bought. So I think Palantir is looking up. It's not one that I necessarily want to trade, and I'll tell you exactly why. I don't like trading really big share floats. So Palantir has 2.1 billion shares. That being said, I think Intel had around like 4 billion. We all know how that happened or how that that ended up. But I always avoid massive share floats. Just personally, I prefer the smaller share floats. But for what it's worth, Palantir does look like it's up. Everything from the fundamental read to the technicals there with that strangle that we were seeing, it looks up to me. WGS, so genetics, one of the few healthcares this week, focusing on genomics, creating the foundation for providing genomic, is it genomic or genomic? Genomic, I'm going to say genomic. Genomic information at scale and pioneering exome and genome sequencing for rare and ultra-rare genetic pediatric disorders. Oh, so they like help with like genetic disorders for kids, I guess. That's a really good cause. $68 a share price for WGS. Good EL score, 58. Nice expected move, 14%. Pretty good history of moves over 10% up or down 4 quarters out of the last 8. Estimating about 27% year-over-year growth here. Yeah, they are focused on rare diseases, diagnosing pediatric patients. It looks like they have an AI-powered variant for interpreting that. That's kind of interesting. Pre-profitability approaching break-even. Clinical genomics, AI interpretation, rare disease diagnosis at scale, 27%. Revenue approaching profitability, typically moves 6 to 10%. Once this approaches profitability or they become profitable, I wonder if the stock just flies, but interesting. WGS, strangles for WGS, we get the 70 call, about 3.5% out of the money up. Pretty pricey contract. Volume does exceed open interest on the 70 call. I want to just guess that a lot of those are bought. But we can look at this in unusual whales at the end just to get a better idea. But I would just guess that majority of these are bought. And the 57p, 15% out of the money down. And even though it's 15% out of the money, it's still priced at 242, which is interesting. And then look at this. Volume 155 to a very, very, very small open interest number. So I think we do have to look at WGS in unusual whales a little later because that, at least for the put, right here, this is fitting this theme that we've been seeing this quarter. And as we know, there are always themes in quarterly earnings reports. I don't know why, but that's just how it is. So we will look at WGS a little later. Matson, so MatX, engaged providing ocean transportation and logistics services. I bet they're having a terrible time right now trying to maneuver through a certain strait if they are involved in that. But yeah, Hawaii, Alaska, California, Okinawa, and different islands. Maybe they don't even. Maybe they don't. But anyways, so yeah, we have a looks like a freighter or like ocean transportation logistics company here in Matson. Current share price almost $172 a share, giving it maybe like a $17, $18 move either way. If it does hit a 10%, 54 EL score, so that's pretty good. Over 50 is nice. 3/4 out of the last 8, it's making a 10% move up or down. Not the best narrative intel. We got the caution sign here. So yeah, they are focused on more ocean shipping and logistics for Hawaii, Alaska, and Trans-Pacific China routes. So they probably would go through the Strait of Hormuz, I would imagine then. Ocean shipping, Hawaii, Alaska, Guam, China, blah, blah. Trans-Pacific shipping, U.S.-China tariff disruption, and Iran war shipping complexity typically moves 4 to 6%. This might be too. This either tanks or it goes nowhere. But 210 call, way too far out of the money up. Not a lot of volume and open interest here, but this is a cheap contract. Kind of tells me that they're probably sold or just way too ambitious. And then here on the put side, there's actually not a lot of volume and open interest on these contracts, so it's probably a safe fade. But the 155p, price at 210, very little volume, no open interest. This is probably a safe fade. I don't see it making a massive move, and I feel like all the Iran war, Strait of Hormuz stuff would probably be priced it anyway. So I think that's a good fade. Look at Adtran. I don't know anything about this company. Adtran, provider of networking communications, platforms, software, and services, focused on the broadband access market. Blah, blah, blah. That really doesn't tell me anything about what they do. Regardless, tech stock trading at 18 bucks a share. 53 EL score, 5/4 out of the last 8. It's making a 10% move up or down. It's pretty good. Narrative intel, we got a sleeper. 15% year-over-year growth estimated. Okay, they make fiber broadband equipment for carriers and internet service providers. Interesting. Revenue, 15% year-over-year driven by BEAD, rural broadband program developments. Reports unusually late at 11 p.m. Eastern. What does that mean? Reports unusually late tonight at 11 p.m. Eastern. That is weird. Rural fiber broadband BEAD program read. ISP equipment demand from federal broadband funding. Interesting. Late report tonight, limits trading. I don't know if we'll have enough volume here. We might. Okay, so 21 call, getting attention for ADTN, 15% out of the money up. Pretty cheap contract. The 15p, I think this is a safe fade. This is too kind of ambiguous for me to figure out what's going on here. And I don't know anything about the company nor the sector enough to kind of look into it more. So I think ADTN is a safe fade. IIPR, Innovative Industrial Properties. This one's really interesting or kind of weird to me because when I see this stock, it reminds me of the weed stock days because IIPR was one of the first real estate focused weed plays. Talking about like, yeah, where you can see its properties are prominently leased to state licensed operators for their regulated cannabis facilities. The company conducts its business through a traditional umbrella partnership, real estate investment trust, or UPREIT structure, yeah, blah, blah. So yeah, its segments are cannabis portfolio and life science portfolio. So they do a lot of weed greenhouses is essentially what that's trying to say. $53 a share price for IIPR. EL score right at 50. 3/4 out of the last 8, it's making a 10% move up or down. Not the best fundamentals year over year estimated for IIPR. Cannabis-focused REIT, sale, leaseback, financing for licensed cannabis operators. Revenue, negative 6.5%, reflects tenant financial stress and lease restructurings. Federal cannabis rescheduling is the structural catalyst. Federal restructuring, yeah, so federal rescheduling is the only catalyst for IIPR in order to get it to go. 55 call here, getting attention, very close to the money though. Expires next week, which is nice. You have time. $1.43, last price traded. Volume, about half the amount of open interest. These are probably bought. The 50p could be bought too. This just could be like a classic straight up strangle. I think this is a safe fade. I feel like cannabis rescheduling is happening at some point either this year or next. It kind of sounds like Trump has been introducing that slowly throughout like his campaign and presidency, but we'll see. Any distraction from the you-know-what. BWX Technologies is a specialty manufacturer and service provider of nuclear components operating in 2 segments, government operations and commercial operations. The government operations segment produces naval nuclear reactors and fuel for the U.S. Naval Nuclear Propulsion Program. So very interesting there because Huntington Ingalls, HII, reports tomorrow morning, and HII builds a lot of the U.S. Navy ships, submarines, and that kind of thing, which are the submarines obviously are nuclear powered. $218 a share for BWX. Kind of a decent EL score. 47 is like good, not great. 2 quarters out of the last 8, it's making a 10% move up or down. 10% move for BWX would be, or BWXT would be about $22 up or down. 20% year-over-year growth estimated here. They make nuclear reactors for U.S. Navy submarines and aircraft carriers. Only approved supplier of naval nuclear reactors. The U.S. Navy has told us, and the President and the Secretary of War, Defense, whatever he is now, they've told us that Navy submarines are the priority of the U.S. military right now. So that is interesting to know. Iran war increases defense nuclear demand urgency. Naval nuclear monopoly, AI nuclear power demand are the tailwinds. Iran war defense urgency amplifies. Beat 4 out of 4 typically. So pretty good, strong fundamental track record. And there's a lot of talk right now about Iran war and that kind of stuff. So BWXT is already kind of interesting. 240 call expiring next week, about 288 a contract. 10% out of the money. Not bad. Probably bought. Probably a mix of bought and sold, but probably more bought. 210p, very close to the money down. Much more expensive contract. $6 last price traded here on that contract. 600 volume versus about 450 open interest. I would say the 210p is probably bought. And the 240 could be a mix of bought and sold, which is kind of interesting because everything I read here seems bullish fundamentally. But the strangle looks bearish. But I think BWXT is a safe fade. Maybe we'll look at this one in unusual whales, but because I like a lot of the fundamental read there, but yeah, technically not too much. Vertex, we'll look at VRTX, one of the another healthcare name this week, a global biotech company discovering and developing small molecule drugs for the treatment of serious diseases. Its key drugs are, and I cannot pronounce any pharmaceutical company drug names ever, only Ozempic because they made a song about it. But yeah, it looks like cystic fibrosis is one of their interests where their drugs are helping. Vertex therapies remain the standard of care globally. Okay, so they got a lot going on, a lot of drugs for a lot of different ailments. 427 in diseases, $427 a share here for Vertex, so maybe a $43 move in either direction if it hits 10%. EL score is 45, so that's pretty decent. 2 quarters out of the last 8, it has made a 10% move up or down. One of those quarters, it made a really big move down. I think it was maybe 20% or so, which is pretty big on a $400 stock. Estimating pretty decent fundamentals, looks like 7.5% year-over-year growth. Cystic fibrosis franchise anchor is Trikafta. See, you can't even pronounce it. Dominant global cystic fibrosis therapy with 90% market penetration. So Vertex is definitely the company out there doing the most for cystic fibrosis patients. Re-rate metric has been, okay, so typically moves 5 to 8%, but pretty good narrative intel for Vertex. I like that, seems bullish. 505 call popping up for the strangle here on the long side, $1.95 last price traded. Pretty good volume over open interest, 203 to 83. Nothing really standing out there or screaming at us to buy it. 370p getting attention on the downside. 13% out of the money down. Interesting that these are both May 22nd expiries, not May 15th, which is interesting. 246 last price traded here on the put. More volume than open interest on the put. I like the downside for Vertex. I think the 370p looks okay in just this snapshot, but I do like the 370p for Vertex, although I think it's a safe fade. Doesn't have enough moves over 10% and kind of a low EL score. Fabrinet, advanced level optical packaging and precision optical, electromechanical and electronic manufacturing services. Optical communication components, modules and subsystems, industrial lasers, automotive components, medical devices, sensors, you name it, Fabrinet does it. $721 a share, giving it, if it hits it, $72 move in either direction. 44 EL score, kind of the same, decent. 4 quarters out of the last 8, it is making a 10% move up or down. That is kind of nice to see. estimating pretty good year-over-year growth. So 37% year-over-year growth. Fundamentally, contract manufacturer for optical transceivers. Makes the modules that connect AI server racks at 400G and 800G speeds. Seems pretty useful in the age of AI. Every hyperscaler AI cluster needs Fabrinet transceivers. Corning, GLW's Corning, $6 billion Meta fiber deal confirmed optical demand. All really good words that I just read there. AI optical transceiver manufacturing, hyperscaler CapEx confirmation flows directly to Fabrinet's fab volume. All sounds pretty good. Typically moves almost 10%. Strangle for Fabrinet, way out of the money. Both of these, way out of the money. 900 call, 25% out of the money. Look how expensive that contract is, $14.50. Who's going to buy that? Not me. 34 contracts bought and sold today versus 8 that were on the chain. I have no idea what's going on here. Probably bought. 1450 would be a very ambitious sold position. 450p, about 40% out of the money down. Much cheaper contract individually. Good volume over open interest, but that 450p has to be sold. I'm convincing myself that it's sold, and the 900 call is probably bought. That's crazy. If the 900 call is bought, then the Lotto price for Fabrinet is going to be like in the 35 to 40% out of the money range, which I don't know if that will hit. Here's what I'll say. Here's what I'm just going to put out there. What up, X Project Group? Yeah. So X Project Group is reading my mind, because here's what I'm going to say for this week. Everything that we've seen thus far, so FN, even Duolingo, Powell, some of these to a lesser extent. But here's what I'll say. I will say you have to pay up this week. If you are not getting, let's say for Duolingo, for example, let's just use Duolingo for example, just because it is a very, very high EL score and a very consistent mover. If you are buying a 155 call for a stock that I'm telling you makes consistent 10% moves, if you're buying something that's 30% out of the money up, you're going to have a bad time. The 97p is a little bit better, but it's still 13%. I don't make metrics based on 13 or 15% moves. I make metrics based on 10% moves. So this week, so far, that's what it's panning out to me. This is the week you have to pay up. If you want your strike to hit, you're going to have to either pay up and get at least as close to that 10% line as you can get, or you're going to have to buy time. So that's all I'll say. All I will say is if you are trading Duolingo and you're buying May 8th contracts that are, I'll say 20% out of the money up or down, you're going to have a bad time. That is all I will say. So yeah, X Project Group, I agree. I think FN is a fade. It is a fade. Too juiced. All right, on semiconductor. On semiconductor, they make semiconductors and sensors more so focused on automotive and industrial, second largest power chip maker in the world, and the largest supplier of image sensors to the automotive market. Seems pretty useful. $103 a share price, giving it maybe like a $10 move either direction. Not the best EL score, 38. Not the best history of moves over 10%. Only 2 quarters in the last 2 years. Looks like fundamentals are pretty in line estimated. SiC power, semi, EV, and AI power demand are the dual themes here. Enhanced punishment risk if guidance is cautious. Teradyne warned about the bar this week. Typically moves 5 to 8%. 110 call getting attention for on. 7% out of the money up. Expiring on Friday. Nice contract price. Good volume over open interest. These look bought to me. The 100p. 445 last contract traded. 3% out of the money down. Again, nice volume over open interest. These look bought to me as well. I think on looks like a tug of war. I would fade it. I don't like this. Both of these sides look bought to me, and because of that, I am out. Sharks. So yeah, that's on Firefly. Let's look at Firefly really quick, just because it's a defense aerospace kind of company. We kind of have to look at it because of that. $33 a share. It is a newer company though. It is newer. $33 a share, not the best EL score. 2 quarters out of the last 8 making a 10% move. I don't even think it's been out for 8 quarters yet, so take this number with a grain of salt. But narrative intel is giving us a caution sign, so not the best narrative intel here. Commercial space launch company, Alpha Small Rocket and Blue Ghost Lunar Lander. I know AST Space Mobile was involved in a Blue Origin rocket launch recently, and that didn't. Something happened with that. The ASTS went down. So all of these kind of aerospatial companies can go either way. Commercial space launch post moon landing. Blue Ghost Lunar success is the narrative catalyst. So maybe they have a lunar module or something. Pre-profitability binary. High implied move on a small float. Typically moves 10 to 20%. Strangle for fly. We got the 39 call. This looks too far out of the money up. Contract. Both of these sides are pretty much about the same. The 30p is closer to the money, so I guess I like the 30p better. But I think fly looks like a good safe fade. This looks like a tug of war kind of situation to me. Fang. We'll look at Fang. I will hesitantly look at Fang because it has a somewhat good narrative intel here, but this is a terrible mover on earnings. No moves over 10% in the last 2 years. Terrible EL score. Nice share price of 213 though. Narrative intel is good on Fang. Negative 7.5% year over year. Estimated growth, it looks like. Commodity comparator. Lowest cost Permian Basin pure play. So they're involved in oil drilling in the Permian Basin. There's also, in the Permian Basin, there's also a lot of wind turbines. I drove through Texas a while back, and I always thought there would be more, like the little oil rig that goes up and down, looks like a bird pecking the ground. Thought there'd be more of those, but there's not. There's a ton of wind turbines out there. Iran war crude oil direct beneficiary, lowest cost Permian producer with variable dividend, crude 8.5% today, blah, blah. Okay. Strangles for Fang, 220 call, 3% out of the money up. Both of these are monthly expirations, so expiring on May 15th. 386 last contract traded here for the 220 call. Volume nowhere near to exceeding the open interest here. Those are probably bought. 195p, 8.5% out of the money down, $1.35. Volume does exceed open interest here, but the cheap contract probably tells me that this is a mix of bought and sold. Probably majority of it is being sold. Val, we're going to fade. TVTX, let's look at really quick. Travere, I'll say Travere. Travere Therapeutics is a biopharmaceutical company. Thanks. Company is focused on identifying, developing, and delivering life-changing therapies to people living with rare kidney, liver, and metabolic diseases. Another healthcare name this week. We've already gotten a couple so far that we've talked about that report just this afternoon. $45 a share here. Only one 10% move up or down in the last 2 years. Narrative intel is somewhat interesting. 57% year-over-year estimated growth here. Looks like they make Filspari for IgA nephropathy. I have no idea. Revenue 57% year-over-year, driven by accelerating Filspari prescription, so it looks like that is going well. Rare kidney disease, commercial ramp. Filspari is first-in-class therapy with accelerating scripts. Interesting. Seems pretty bullish. 47.50 call getting attention for TVTX. Too cheap, not enough volume going on. 40p, too far out of the money down, not enough volume. Yeah, so TVTX looks like a fade. Nothing on the strangle there is interesting to me. Biomarin. Should we look at Biomarin? Yeah, I'll get back to LSCC, Mr. Merrick. I already kind of looked at it, but I think we were going to look at the... no, I don't think we were. I will. I'll get back to it just in a second after we're done with like two or three more of these this afternoon. Biomarin, global biotech company focusing on developing commercializing therapies for rare genetic diseases. Another healthcare name. So maybe there are quite a few healthcare names this week. $55 a share for Biomarin. No moves over 10% in the last 2 years. Really bad EL score here. Looks like fundamentals estimated pretty in line year over year. Rare disease compounder here. Looks like one of their flagship products, their prescription growth is the re-rate metric here. Pharma Week confirmation amplifies. Oh, so this is Pharma Week too. That's interesting. Or maybe Pharma Week was last week. Typically moves 4 to 6%. Strangles for Biomarin. Nothing is popping up here. Both of these could be sold to me, but just looks, yeah, if nothing pops up to me right away, then I'm kind of moving on from it. There are just way too many opportunities this week to be looking at like a 1 out of 8 or a 0 out of 8 mover like that. So with that being said, let's fade Paramount Skydance's fade rig, unless someone in the chat wants me to look at one of those X Project group. I know you got the data center stuff in mind, so if I miss something that is data center related or something you think we should look at, let me know, please. Lattice, yeah, let's look back at Lattice, Mr. Merrick. So LSCC, developer of semiconductor tech, right? We all know that. Good share price, 127, almost 127 bucks a share. Good EL score, 63 is nice. Pretty good history of moves over 10%. Really good fundamentals estimated here. AI server management, FPGA. Every AI rack needs LSCC for BMC. Enhanced upside from full AI infrastructure chain confirmation happens this week, potentially. Strangles for LSCC. Yeah, this is what we were looking at earlier. So I think the 140 call looks better here. Both of these sides look bought to me. And I think that kind of makes sense. I think it's okay to strangle something like LSCC. It's a high EL score. Anything over, I'm going to say anything over 50 now needs to be strangled. But 50 and 60, those are definite strangle score numbers. We'll look at this in unusual whales. I don't like how the volume is not exceeding open interest. I wish one of these had a very low open interest number and a high volume number. That's not the case with these. So I'm probably gonna fade LSCC just because nothing is jumping out to me. But if you do trade it, I would go as close to the money as you can and definitely strangle it. P-Core, AIS, CMI, are they this afternoon though? I don't know if I have them this afternoon. All right, tomorrow morning, DigitalOcean is our first one. Really nice EL score here for DigitalOcean, cloud computing platform offering on-demand infrastructure and platform tools for developers, startups, and small and medium-sized businesses. $108 a share price for DOCN. Really nice EL score, 86. 6 quarters out of the last 8, it's making a 10% move up or down. That's good. 10% move off of current share price would be 117, maybe 120. And then somewhere below like 95 maybe potentially. Estimating pretty decent year-over-year growth, maybe 18.5% estimated here. Cloud platform for small businesses and developers. AI native cloud launch today into earnings. Interesting. They're launching a product here in earnings. Maximum narrative momentum. Small business AI workload demand and GPU cloud are the re-rate metrics nearing 52-week high. Typically moves 8 to 12%. So do we have a double top or do we bust through here and create new highs for DigitalOcean? 120 call getting attention. A lot. We might have to trade DOCN. Look at this. We got the 120 call, 13% out of the money up. Nice price contract telling us these are probably bought. Tons of volume. Pretty low open interest numbers. So 5,700 contracts to about 169 that were on the chain before today. 95p getting attention on the downside. 331 last contract traded there, and check it out. This is the theme of this quarter. Massive volume number, very small open interest number. So 3,700 contracts bought and sold today versus just 8 that were on the chain prior to Monday morning. So all of those contracts came in today for a reason. We are going to have to look at DOCN in unusual whales later, but right now DOCN is definitely my favorite strangle for today. Atcore, electrical products for the non-residential construction and renovation markets, as well as residential markets. So it looks like they are into some electrical products for residential and non-residential. $74 a share price here. Good EL score, 74 bucks. Or 74 is the EL score. 5 quarters out of the last 8, we're making a 10% move up or down. I'm going to go fast because we only have half an hour left. Bad narrative intel here. Very inline year-over-year estimated growth with Atcore. Strangle for Atcore. The 80 call definitely looks like it's stronger here. The 55p is way too cheap and way too far out of the money down. That's too ambitious. So the 80 call looks better for Atcore, but I think it's a safe fade just due to the poor narrative intel. Huntington Ingalls Industries, so HII, largest independent military shipbuilder in the U.S. So like we were saying before, they are the largest independent military shipbuilder here. They make almost all of the nuclear submarines and a lot of the warships for the United States Navy, which are very much in demand right now because apparently their hulls are made of Swiss cheese. $365 a share, giving it maybe a 36 or maybe a $40 move in either direction, up or down. If it does hit 10%, nice EL score, just one away from 69, 7% expected move. 4 quarters out of the last 8, it's making a 10% move up or down, so that's pretty good. Estimating pretty good year-over-year growth here, so 10.5% maybe. Huntington Ingalls is the only U.S. builder of nuclear-powered aircraft carriers and one of 2 nuclear submarine builders. So I guess there is another company out there that is making nuclear submarines, but there aren't many nuclear submarines in the Navy, so still very, very prominent and important in that production cycle. Iran war increases naval defense urgency directly. Submarine partnership requires HII production capacity expansion. It takes years for them to build 1 warship and 1 submarine. So it's not like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I am in agreement with this Iran war, if that increases our naval defense urgency, because by the time the U.S. does make a sub, things will have already happened in between. So not quite sure what that's about. But anyways, for what it's worth, there is a war happening in Iran, and submarines and warships are being used. So take that as you want. Nuclear naval shipbuilding monopoly. Iran war is a direct urgency catalyst for carrier and submarine programs. Strangles for HII for 10 call getting attention. Both of these are monthlies, which is nice. Gives us more than a week to work with. Not a lot of volume, not even a lot of open interest here. The contract is probably bought because of this price. Downside 320p, 12% out of the money down. Not a lot of volume and open interest there. I don't like anything with HII. Fundamentally, it all seems strong. It all seems like HII is going to probably have good news about projects that they have been working on, revenue that they have made, and forward looking, they probably will talk about the fact that the Navy is going to be asking them to build more subs and aircraft carriers, but nothing on the strangle there is exciting me. So I think HII is a nice fade. X Project Group is going crazy in the chat. Everyone pay attention to what X Project Group is talking about with a lot of those tickers. They're not all must plays, but X Project Group has a really, really keen eye for finding some spicy plays that make pretty crazy moves. All right. Ferguson. Ferg is next. So Ferguson distributes plumbing and HVAC products to North American repair, maintenance, and improvement, new construction and civil infrastructure markets. All of that tells me that they probably help build data centers. $262 a share price, good EL score. 3 quarters out of the last 8, we're making a 10% move here on Ferg. Largest U.S. plumbing and HVAC distribution company, distributes pipes, valves, fittings, and HVAC equipment for construction. Data center cooling systems are an emerging demand vector. Beat 3 out of the last 4 quarters. All really good, hot fundamentals there. Typically moves 4 to 6%. But like you see, we have a history of at least 3 quarters in the last 2 years making a 10% move, which is nice to see. 270 call getting attention for Ferg, 3% out of the money up. Both of these contracts are monthlies. Not a lot of volume compared to kind of a high open interest number here for the 270 call. This 633 last price traded tells me they're probably bought. 240p, 8.5% or 8% out of the money down. 350 is the contract price last traded here for the 240p. Volume just about matching open interest. I think the 270 call looks like the much safer and stronger side here. The 240p are probably just being used as hedges, but everything fundamentally that we read for Ferg sounds strong and bullish. So I do like that 270 call. It's pretty pricey. I think you can go further out. I think you can go between 5 and 7% out of the money, which maybe that contract price gets down to $3. Maybe we'll look at this one in unusual whales because I do like the 270 call a little later. So Ferg, I like the call. I like the up there. Shoals. This is one of our higher EL scored stocks that are under a share price of $25 this week. So, provider of electrical balance of system solutions for solar energy products, primarily in the United States. We had a lot of solars last week. We had Enphase that dropped. We had First Solar. I can't quite remember what First Solar did, but we did have some interesting solar reports last week. Blah, blah, blah. The products are sold principally to engineering, procurement, and construction firms that build solar energy products. $8 a share price here for Shoals. 52 EL score, pretty good. Really nice history of moves over 10%. So 6 out of the last 8 quarters, it's making a good move. A 10% move off of Shoals, keep in mind, is maybe 80 cents, 82 cents in either direction though. So if you do trade it, you're going to want to trade something in the money or very, very close to the current share price. 61% year-over-year estimated growth. Really nice numbers there. First Solar confirmed domestic solar this week. Beat 1 out of the last 4 quarters. All fundamentally sounding really nice and bullish to me right there. Domestic solar beneficiary utility scale solar wiring connects to First Solar confirmation this week. Okay, so all really good numbers. Beat history is mixed. Typically moves maybe almost 10%. Strangles for Shoals. Nothing really popping out or standing out to me. The 9 call, 8% out of the money up, expires monthlies, which is nice. Not a lot of volume. Same kind of story with the 7P. The 7P looks more so sold than the 9 call, so I would say lean to the upside here for Shoals, but probably a safe fade. I just think it's too cheap stock. Really good history of moves over 10% though, so if you got money, and then look, see, this is how fast the options, this is how fast the strangles update on the website. So we just looked at this, and this was a different, I don't even know what strike it was, but it was a different strike. Now we have the 8P popping up. So I think Shoals, this is a safe fade. This kind of looks, these two right here look like very very tug of war-ish. I guess I would lean upside just because of all that strong fundamental stuff, but I'm not going to trade Shoals. Westlake we'll look at really quick. Marketer of both housing and infrastructure product and performance and essential materials that are designed to enhance the lives of people every day. I don't know what that is. $114 a share price. Okay, EL score 47. 2 quarters out of the last 8, we're doing a 10% move. For Westlake, not the best narrative intel. Looks like maybe 1% year-over-year estimated growth. They make PVC and polyethylene, construction plastics, housing market PVC demand. Zillow is reporting this week, so that's another housing play there, just for kind of comparison's sake. Beat 1 out of the last 4 quarters. Construction plastics, yeah, so they make PVC pipes. That's pretty much all they do. Beat history poor, typically moves 3 to 4%. And the strangles that we're finding for Westlake, nothing really popping up. So I think that's a safe fade. Rockwell, should we look at Rockwell? Let's look at Rockwell really quick. Rockwell automation success for Rockwell International, which spun off its avionics segment in 2001. Pure play industrial automation company. So 402 per share here, so $400 a share. If it gets a 10% move, we're looking at a $40 move up or down. It's only done that 2 quarters out of the last 8 though, so not the best track record in terms of 10% moves. Pretty in line, but a good narrative intel for Rockwell, but pretty in line fundamentals. Looks like maybe 8% year-over-year growth estimated. They make industrial automation equipment, PLCs, motor drives, factory control systems. Industrial automation, reshoring, compounder, tariff-driven onshoring directly drives PLC and automation demand. They typically move maybe 5 to 8%. They've beat 3 out of the last 4 quarters though. 420 call, I like the 420 call. Getting attention, 4.5% out of the money up. Not a lot of volume compared to the open interest, but this 883 contract last price traded tells me they're probably bought. 390p, 3% out of the money down. Volume does exceed open interest here, and the contract is nice and expensive at 994. Both of these are probably bought. This looks tug of war-ish to me. Low history of moves too. I will fade Rockwell. No interest there. IT, let's look at Gartner. Dwight is back. What up, Dwight? Dwight, you got the magic touch. We had Starbucks, then eBay. Did you still have eBay calls in this week? I hope you held like an eBay call into this week after that GME news. But Palantir puts, okay, I think we looked at Palantir earlier. That's a fade for me, but let's look at that in unusual whales in a little bit. So Gartner, technology insights drive smarter decisions, stronger performance in an organization's mission critical priorities. $147 a share price. Gartner made a crazy ER move in the last 2 years, so that's what has attributed to this 2 out of 8 number. but it's not a consistent 10% mover for what it's worth. Not the best year-over-year growth estimated. I think that one move that it made a 10% move, it was a pretty big down move. Just thinking off the top of my head. AI Advisory Research Compounder published AI margin insight today into earnings, massively off $451 high at 150. Wow. So yeah, it used to be $450. Now we're at like 150. Beat 3 out of the last 4 quarters. Kind of mixed bag, mixed results there. Strangle for IT, we get the 170 call, 14% out of the money up. Pretty pricey for being 14% out of the money at $3.10. Tells me they're probably bought. 125p, I'm pretty much about the same. Both of these could be bought. Maybe we'll look at IT in unusual whales if we have time, but I think that's a safe fade. Shopify we'll look at. Everyone knows Shop, $127 a share, 44 EL score. It's not as good as you would want it to be, especially with a stock that has a pretty good history of moves up for 10%. So 4 quarters out of the last 8, it's making 10% move up or down. The EL score is slightly affected with Shopify because it has a pretty big float, which hurts it. 30% year-over-year estimated growth, which is good. Largest global e-commerce infrastructure company. E-commerce infrastructure compounder, tariff-driven online retail shift is the structural tailwind here. 4 out of the last 4 quarters, Shop has produced a beat, which is all pretty good and strong fundamentally. Strangle for Shopify, the 135 call, 6% out of the money up, expires Friday. 471 last contract traded there, so those are probably bought. Volume just about almost the same as open interest, not almost, but in the grand scheme of things, what's 1,000 contracts? 120p getting the attention on the downside. This is interesting because the open interest is not. If the open interest was smaller, then I would say the 120p is the safer side here. But that volume is a really nice big number over a somewhat small open interest number, and that contract price at 440 tells me that 120p is probably bought too. Shopify, I think it does make sense to strangle Shopify, and I like both of these strangles to do that because they are less than 10% out of the money. But just picking one of these off the top of my head, I'll go with the put side because we have more volume than open interest. But I'm not interested in trading Shop this week. IQV, $160 a share. One of the other healthcare stocks this week. 42 EL score. Only 2 quarters out of the last 8 were making a 10% move. Largest global contract research organization. Pretty good narrative intel here. So 6% maybe year-over-year estimated growth. Pharma research and development spending recovery confirmed by Lilly, Vertex, AbbVie. AI drug discovery partnerships are the re-rate here. Its high was 247. Now it's at 156. So that's a pretty big difference. Beat 3 out of the last 4 quarters. Strangles for IQV. We get the 175 call. 10% out of the money up. 234 contract. Those are probably bought, even though there's not a lot of volume, but probably bought. 135p. 15% out of the money down. Both of these are monthlies. $1.20. Good volume over open interest here. We might have to look at this in unusual whales because this could go either way. But I would say IQV is a safe fade. Maybe these 135p, maybe there's a mix of bought and sold here. They could just be really degen put buyers, but I think that's a safe fade. Global Foundries, yeah, we'll look at Global Foundries just because X Project Group mentioned it. GFS, top 5 contract semiconductor manufacturer globally. It was originally the manufacturing arm of AMD before it was spun out in 2009. That's interesting. So they have been around for a long time, it looks like. $67 a share price. 41 EL score, kind of okay. 2 quarters out of the last 8 were making a 10% move with GFS. Decent year-over-year, about 2.5% year-over-year estimated growth. Specialty semiconductor foundry, automotive, RF, and IoT chips, not competing with TSMC on leading edge AI, instead serving defense and automotive and government markets. That's interesting. Specialty semiconductor, right, okay, more focused on defense and automotive and government. Domestic specialty foundry chips act beneficiary, interesting. Already, blah, 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 confirms market's positioning. Okay, all sounds pretty good fundamentally to me for GFS. 90 call getting attention, 33% out of the money up, 60 cents last contract traded here. 33% is way too ambitious up. So these are probably sold. 55p. Same kind of thing, 20% out of the money down. pretty cheap contract. These are probably sold to, I think maybe just because all that, and then look at this 90-day chart, but all of this sounded really nice fundamentally. I think going like if there's an 85 or let's see, what are we at? If there's an 80 that you can get, that might be good for the call side there. Both of these sides look like they're being sold. So for what it's worth, it doesn't look like traders are anticipating a move over 90, but that doesn't mean we can't get close to 90. So maybe like an 80 or 85. I don't know. We'll look at GFS too a little later. I got to look at unusual whales. I got to have enough time to do that and play some of my own trades. So I might be fading. I might not be talking about a lot of these that report tomorrow morning. X Project Group, do you have any ETNs? We look at Eaton. Let's look at Eaton really quick. Eaton. Truck axles, blah, 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 industrial powerhouse. Do they do anything with HVACs and data centers? I don't know. Electrical portfolio representing around 70% of companies sells components within data centers. Okay, there it is. $423 a share. No moves over 10% in the last 2 years. Not the best expected move. Pretty bad EL score. Estimating 11% year-over-year growth. Makes power management equipment, circuit breakers, switchgear, transformers for data centers and utilities. Data center power management, all of that very bullish, good narrative intel. 440 call getting attention for Eaton. That looks bought to me. 680 a contract, nice volume over open interest. 420p, very close to the money, very pricier contract. Volume exceeding open interest there. Both of these look bought to me. This looks like a tug of war and one that I do not want to participate in. KKR, I don't want to look at. Bud, I don't care about. Revity, man, I don't really want to. What else do we got from your list? X Project Group. STRL, I don't know if I have that. P-Core, do I have P-Core on here? Let's see, do I have P-Core? Is P-Core this week? Do I have it? Don't have it, so might not have had enough volume when I looked it up. Okay, with that in mind, now let's go on to some unusual whale stuff. So Duolingo, we want to do that first. We got the 155 and 97. We're going to have to go quick. We got 10 minutes. 155.97, 155, 155. 155 is way too far out. So here's that candle that it's referencing. Some at the mid, majority on the bid. I don't know. I think that's too ambitious. I think that's too far to the money up. The 120p for Duolingo, just because it's standing out to me, that's being sold. So that's bullish for the stock. Not a ton of in the money call volume. The 116p is all being sold. That's bullish for Duolingo. The 111p is kind of a mix. Kind of hard to see what's going on there. The downside 97p is being sold. Duolingo is looking up to me. I can pretty confidently say that. I don't know if you will get a move to 155, but I do think the 125 looks pretty okay. I think the 120 looks pretty good. And then if you're going to want to strangle the Duolingo play. And if you do that, then I think you can do it with a 93p. So Duolingo is looking up to me. I would go close to the money. Powell, let's look at Powell really quick. Data center type play. I am not going to trade Duolingo though. Powell, we got the 350 and 250. So 350, a lot of that is bought or at the ask. So that's bullish for that contract. The 250 is bought as well. This could just be a good classic strangle. Yeah, could just be a good classic strangle, the 250 and the 350. But both of those prices are really expensive. So I'm going to fade Powell. I don't like it. Nothing really standing out there. Was it pins? Should we look at pins? iCore. I didn't like iCore. Let's look at pins. I might want to trade pins. Let's look at the 5.8. We only have 8 minutes. 25 and 1750. 1750 in pins. Mix. Yeah, kind of like a mix of bought and sold. Let's make this bigger so we can see where this candle is coming from. That is all on the ask. It's interesting. And then the long side 22 call. I don't know. Pins maybe downside. Hard to tell exactly. Not a lot of in the money call volume for pins. So yeah, I think I do. I don't know if it's got a 1750 move in it. I think you can pay up in pins, and I would strangle it. I think I like the downside in pins more. What is the Palantir? All right, let's look at Palantir. Let's do LSCC first. LSCC, lattice. Monthlies for LSCC. The strangle that we had was 140 and 110. 110. This is a big candle from, well, not, there is a really big candle from the 22nd that's at the ask, or majority looks like ask and mid or no side. I got the 110 and the 140. The 140 call. 140 call looks like it's bought. I think LSCC is looking up for sure, but those are expensive contracts, and I don't know if I want to. Oh, there is some good volume at the 160, so maybe that does work. Lattice, I don't know, nothing really standing out to me. Palantir, let's look at Palantir next. Palantir looked up to me, I thought, just based on the strangle I have on the site. 160 call, 130p. I think it's got weeklies, yeah. 130p. Looks like there's a lot in the bid for the 130p. We had the 160 call. 160 call, kind of a mixed bag. Do we have some in the money puts going on? What's this 150? I don't know. This one's kind of a mixed bag too. Very hard to figure out. That's a big in the money call order. There are some big in the money put orders going on with Palantir, but what's this one? This is sold. I'm gonna say Palantir looks up. I'm gonna play up for it on. Oh, that's in the money, and that's like a $430,000 candle. We have any big in the monies? Yeah, I'm gonna go up with Palantir. I think you got to go close to the money though. And I think you should strangle Palantir. Good history of move over 10%. WGS, let's look at that one. I'm not going to trade Palantir. I have no interest in trading Palantir. Too crowded for my type of trade. I got 5 minutes. While I have that in mind, let me place my earnings pick'em for Palantir up. Look, see, 14,500 is on up for Palantir for earnings lottos, and only 1,100 is on down. And I'm going big. We're going home. I got to get money back. I've been hemorrhaging money this week, or this quarter rather. Okay, so that for pick'em, and then let's get back to what we were doing. WGS. I wanted to look at WGS. I got to go fast. 70 and 60. 70 looked good. 70's all in the bid. So that's not good. 60p. Doesn't look like a good move. This is interesting. This is all in the 73 is pretty bullish. I don't know. Actually, maybe I'm kind of changing my mind. The call side might be good here for WGS. How much is the 70 call? 4. 80. What's this? 78. Yeah, there's just not a lot of OI in those. The 82. What's the 82? The 82. There is some activity in these though. Not a lot of in the money put activity for WGS. WGS could be a good one. I think I like the calls there for WGS. What is the, oh my God, I only have 3 minutes. Oh yeah, DOCN. DOCN. I got to look at DOCN because that was the only one that actually looked good to me. I got to start these earlier. I can't even place my own trades. This is crazy. DOCN. ADP is being sold in DOCN. 120 call is probably being bought. 127 call. Oh, holy crap. All right, we're going to get some DOCN strangle to the call side. I'm going to do, is that the 8th? I'm going to do, oh my, the 127 is expensive. There was just a really big order in the 91 call. All on the ask. Yeah, DSCN calls look good. You're going to have to pay up, though. That's the issue. We're going to have to pay up. We're going to have to get like the 120. The 120 and the like the 98 or the 95. I'm going to fade. I like DOCN though. I like the calls. I like DOCN calls. I just think it's too juiced. I like trading earnings at the end of the week. But that's just me. All right. And we only have a minute left. So I'm sorry. Not the best. Not the best suggestions or call outs today, but beginning of the week, juiced contracts. We'll see how the reports happen tonight and tomorrow morning. Palantir, I'm hoping goes up. That's what it looks like just based on the little research that we did this afternoon. But the good thing is this week, there are so many earnings. I myself, I usually trade earnings later into the week. We usually have better moves Thursday into Friday. Last week was Roblox, Twilio, Team, some others that I'm not remembering off the top of my head, but all of those made crazy 15% plus moves on Friday morning. So I like the Thursday into Friday, but yeah, I'm hoping DOCN does well. I'm hoping Duolingo does well. Powell, LSCC was really ambiguous, hard to figure out. Palantir, I think that looks up. WGS could be interesting. There could be something happening with WGS. Tomorrow morning, yeah, DOCN. I'm thinking that thing rockets. HI, kind of ambiguous, hard to figure that one out. Ferguson, so yeah, some of these are hard to kind of figure out. GFS looked good. GFS calls look good. So anyways, I hope this was somewhat helpful. I'm sorry that I seem all over the place for today. I'll try to get on earlier tomorrow, and I think what I'm going to do is I'll make a list of names that I talk about so that I don't just ramble and start talking about every single stock reporting, because I would like to also trade. I know you guys trade, and shocker, but I also trade too sometimes when I have time to place my trades. So all that being said, I'll get on tomorrow a little earlier. I'll have a better game plan as far as how many stocks I talk about. I won't talk about all of them. But as always, thank you so much for joining and watching and collaborating. You guys are making me a better trader, and I hope that my ramblings help you too. Please come back tomorrow around the same time, 2:45, 2:50 p.m. Eastern. Let me know, drop in the chat tomorrow which names you want me to talk about that I might not have, and we will take a look at it. But best of luck. If you took a trade this afternoon, I hope you make money tomorrow morning. Keep in mind we have many more days this week to trade, so no FOMO. FOMO is not allowed around here. The market's always here and opportunities are endless. So have a great rest of your day. I'll see you all tomorrow. Peace, everyone.